When people think of self-sabotage, they imagine chaos. Drinking too much, blowing up relationships, getting into debt. But the most dangerous form of self-sabotage doesn't look dramatic at all. It looks reasonable, like hesitation disguised as really thinking things through, until overthinking replaces action and the goal is never reached. Or like staying pleasant but emotionally withholding, never fully letting people in, slowly isolating yourself. This kind of self-sabotage is quiet, it's subtle, and that's exactly why it's hard to spot and even harder to control. Because when you don't notice it, it gets to run the show. So what is it? Does the brain just want you to fail so it can reinforce the low self-esteem you're already struggling with? Well, yes and no. This is Skinniest Latte. And in the next 5 minutes, I'll give you a full serving. 4 principles that explain the real reason self-sabotage happens and how to finally make your brain work for you instead of against you. Let's get into it. Principle 1. The survival brain fights expansion. Your brain is not a vision board. It's a risk assessment machine. Its job is not to make you happy, fulfilled, or successful. Its job is to keep you alive. And the brain equates predictability with safety. Anything familiar feels safer than anything unknown, even if what's familiar is painful, limiting, or unfulfilling. That's why people stay in situations they say they hate. That's why change feels heavy, even when it's good change. Growth introduces uncertainty, and uncertainty registers as danger. So when you try to level up emotionally, socially, financially, your brain doesn't applaud, it tightens the brakes. And yet, modern society itself is proof that people are capable of change. So something in us must be stronger than fear. Inside you, there are 2 competing forces. On one side, the ego, the part of you that wants expansion, growth, power, more. On the other side, the survival brain, the part that wants safety, stability, predictability, control. Neither is wrong. In fact, the best outcomes come from a balance of both. But here's the problem. When the stakes feel high, the survival brain takes over. And when growth threatens your identity, your history, your patterns, or your sense of safety, self-sabotage steps in. Not loudly, strategically. And here's the key insight. The deeper the change you need, the quieter the sabotage becomes. And that's why the most important sabotage is quiet. Principle 2. Self-sabotage hides. Yes, there is loud self-sabotage, explosive behavior, obvious self-destruction, crises that force attention, but there is also quiet self-sabotage, and this is the one most people miss. Quiet self-sabotage shows up as choosing low-risk versions of what you want. Have commitments that feel safe but lead nowhere. Calling not going after what you want being realistic. Because if the brain made the resistance obvious, you'd notice it. So instead, it disguises protection as logic. Principle 3. Your triggers reveal the pattern. Notice where you feel the most anxiety in your core areas of life. That's where self-sabotage usually hides. In love, you might want closeness, intimacy, a real relationship. But if you've experienced rejection, abandonment, or being emotionally neglected, your brain has learned that relying on someone is dangerous. So protection doesn't always look like pulling away. Sometimes it looks like taking control. You plan the dates. You keep things moving. You tell yourself you don't need help. You carry the relationship, so you never have to find out whether they would show up for you. Because you want to be loved so badly, you avoid anything that might show you you're not. With money, you might want financial freedom, success, abundance. But maybe you grew up hearing that rich people are shallow, or that people like us don't live that way. Or maybe your own history with money taught you not to trust yourself with it. So your brain protects you from identity conflict. You under-earn. You don't track your finances. Money conversations make you uncomfortable. Not because you don't want wealth, but because success threatens who you're allowed to be. Your body. You might want to be fit, confident, visible, but for some people, the body becomes protection. If rejection happens, it can be blamed on weight or lack of effort, not personality, not worth. Because if you improve your looks and are still rejected, there's nothing left to hide behind, so the brain chooses the shield. Principle 4. Sheer willpower isn't the answer. This is the reframe most people never make. Self-sabotage always makes sense. It isn't random. It is always protecting you from something. So the question isn't, why am I like this? The real question is, What am I protecting myself from? This isn't a character flaw, it's a safety response. And that's why willpower doesn't fix it. You don't stop self-sabotaging by forcing discipline. You stop by removing the threat. Because until growth feels safe enough, your brain will always pull you back. So, what is the right approach? First, identify the desire. What do you want to grow into? What is the change you're reaching for? Second, identify the threat. What does your brain believe will happen if you try to get it? Rejection, failure, loss of identity, shame? This is the part of you that resists, not because it's broken, but because it's protective. Third, address the insecurity, not the behavior. Ask yourself, what would need to be true for this new life to feel safe? For love, I need to enjoy my life and feel confident on my own, so a relationship isn't a fragile lifeline I'm afraid to lose. For the body, I need to like myself enough for who I am, so rejection doesn't feel like annihilation. For money, I need to build my own perspective on finances, step by step, so abundance doesn't feel destabilizing or undeserved. Yes, growth is uncomfortable, but it should never feel like an existential threat. It doesn't require fearlessness, it requires trust. And trust is built by taking steps your nervous system can tolerate, not by jumping into the deep end and calling it bravery. Self-sabotage isn't your enemy, it's a signal. And once you understand what it's protecting you from, you stop fighting yourself and start growing with yourself. If this resonated, let me know in the comments what topics you'd like to see next. And welcome to Skinniest Latte, the place where we wake up, sip up, level up.